Alright, JDs and Lellerman, this is part one of my OpSec series. Today we are going to do a deep dive into securing our network traffic and remaining anonymous. Now I want to preface this video with a disclaimer. I support anonymity. I don't support black hat hacking or anything like that. Please just use this to stay private if you so choose. Don't use this for malicious purposes. If you do, you will be arrested. There are always ways of finding people, and people will always make mistakes. It is a very, very bad idea, and I truly do not recommend or encourage or promote using this for illegal purposes. I want to make that very, very clear to everyone watching this video. Now, with that out of the way, let's dive into it. So today we're going to be using two tools. We're going to be using OpenVPN. I've just censored my username here, and you will need to download for this video. You need to go to accounts, ProtonVPN, and then downloads. You will need to choose your platform here. I'm assuming for most of you guys it's going to be Linux. Okay, and you're going to want your OpenVPN, not your WireGuard file. I made this mistake. You want your OpenVPN configuration files. You want it for the TCP protocol. And then you select your server and you're going to download that file and store it somewhere. Okay? That is the first prerequisite. The second prerequisite is having Tor installed on your machine. You can do sudo apt install Tor, I believe is the correct install. If not, you can look it up. I am not going to check for you. So, firstly, let's talk about proxy chains, right? What is a proxy? What is a proxy chain? Let's go low level, and then let's go really in depth and go, all right, how do we mess with it? So, proxy chains is a tool that allows you to essentially run multiple proxies at once and do different stuff with it. And a proxy is basically a server somewhere else that it's similar to a VPN in that you send your internet traffic to it, and then the proxy sends it to the website. So the website that you're visiting sees the proxy's IP address, not yours. But now let's say, right, that you've got a proxy and you visit a website and people come up to that website owner and they go, hey, we want to see the logs. We think this person did a bad thing. We want to see who used your proxy server. And they have to, in most countries, aside from places like Switzerland, they have to go, all right, well, here's the logs. Here's who connected to our proxy server, right? And that obviously compromises you. And that's where proxy chains come in. So they allow you to essentially, using the proxy chains tool, route through multiple proxies. So I'm going to get a whiteboard up because I like to explain things visually. So if we just have one proxy server, it is going to connect to the site, and then someone can ask for the logs and they can see our IP, right? Instead, we are going to connect with multiple proxies. Okay, so let's say this is proxy 1, proxy 2, and then proxy 3, and proxy 4, and our internet traffic, this is us right here with our beautiful drawing skills that aren't, ignore that. Okay, look how happy he is. Let's give him a little hat too. Perfect. Okay, so this is us, right? And we want to visit our favorite website, cat.com. But we don't want anyone to know that we're visiting cat.com because we want to hide our hobbies from everyone else, right? So if we just visit it directly, then our IP of, let's say, 10.0.2.5 15, just for this example, 10.0.2.15, that is sent through here to the site, and they can just directly trace it back. Now let's say we go through one proxy to the site, then the site is going to see the proxy's IP. However, the proxy can tell this guy over here, who maybe is, you know, from like a NSA or, you know, CIA or police or whatever it is, right? This proxy can tell him, hey, the IP 10.0.2.15 connected to our proxy server to visit this, and he's like, aha, I've got you, like cute cat photos, right? So we don't want this to happen. So what we do is we have proxy 1, proxy 2, proxy 3, proxy 4, and then we connect to the cat site. So our traffic goes, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to erase some stuff here to make it a bit cleaner. You guys, oh my god, just destroyed my face. So we're going to get rid of this, yada yada yada. And we'll get rid of this little trail here as well. Oh, just deleted his arm. Half of this video is just going to be erasing a whiteboard, wow. Cool. So now we are going through proxy 1, which I will just fix, to proxy 2, to proxy 3, to proxy 4, to cat.com. So let's say this one is, you know, 10 dot, I don't know, dot 1 dot 2 dot 15, and then all of these, you know, is so on and so on and so on. They have different IP addresses for each proxy. Now, if we visit cat.com and this dude over here wants to ask for our, they go, hey, this IP visited it, he figures out it's a proxy server, and he wants to know who used the proxy server. So the proxy server here, proxy 4, is going to go, sure thing. Well, I can see that the IP that connected to me was proxy 3. And then he's might go, well, that's a proxy server. And proxy 3 is going to go, well, the IP that connected to me is proxy 2. Proxy 2 is going to say proxy 1. And it makes it much harder to trace back. And now, if you're using proxies without logs, or you're running your own proxy servers, or whatever it is, that makes it much, much harder, virtually impossible. But we are going to step this up a notch. All right, we're going to take it even further in today's demo. And I know that this explanation might be boring you guys. I'm going to put a timestamp. You can skip all this, but please don't, because this is very important for you to know. Now, we are going to route all our traffic through Tor. Okay, T-O-R. Most of you guys will already have heard of Tor. Tor is the onion router. And what does that mean? It is layered, and it is a volunteer-based network, which means there are less logs, right? In fact, no logs, unless there is a compromised endpoint, which is, I know, fancy words, but I'll get into that in a sec. But we are now sending our traffic through Tor, okay? So through proxy chains, it is now going through Tor nodes. So all of these are Tor volunteers, okay? They're not a proxy server. They are all volunteers on the Tor network, and they allow us to circumvent. Journalists will use it to keep safe in countries with, you know, maybe high government surveillance and things like that. But what happens if this, our exit node, right? We'll just change it to an E. And this happens in a lot of cases where people get compromised while using Tor, aka the deep web or the dark web, whatever you want to call it, or just routing their traffic through it. This is our exit node, and the exit node is secretly controlled by or compromised by our little guy over here that wants to get our information. Now when we exit out, it can leak information about us because it's compromised by him. So obviously using Tor is generally enough in most cases, but we want to get extreme here, right? We don't do things by halves on this channel. So now we are also going to use a VPN to connect to Tor. So Tor itself never sees our IP address. So if we erase this little monkey here, and then we add oh, my mouse is just freezing. We add a VPN, and not just any VPN, specifically a VPN in a country like Switzerland with a no logs policy. And the reason that is because if our funny little evil guy over there goes, hey, show me who connected to you, they're gonna say, well, we don't have those logs, right? Like we end-to-end encrypted, we can't get you those logs, and we don't have to give it to you because the laws of our country prevent that. So now we connect to a VPN which connects to Tor, which connects to a bunch of volunteer nodes, which then connects to cat.com. So let's say the exit node of Tor is compromised. We're still in a VPN tunnel that's hiding our IP address on the off chance that we are using a compromised exit node, and our VPN will have a kill switch, okay? We will abbreviate it with KS. Our VPN will have a kill switch, which means if we disconnect from our VPN for even if it's like a millisecond, now our traffic stops, all right? It kills all of our network traffic so that our real IP won't be shown. Another thing is our DNS can leak our real IP address, so I'm going to show you how to set up proxy chains to proxy your DNS as well as everything else. All right, so now you have an understanding of this. Hopefully this all makes sense, and we're going to get into the setup. So this is assuming, again, you've downloaded your OpenVPN configuration files for Windows and, for Linux, and you want it to be TCP. And the first step is we're going to use service Tor start, or you can also run systemctl service Tor start. So I am already a root user, but for some people it would be sudo systemctl start Tor. Sorry, I got the syntax wrong. And you can quit Tor using this. Okay. Now we are going to run ProtonVPN via OpenVPN. So this will be sudo openvpn --config and then the file path of your config file, which will be a .ovpn file. And if you're using if you're VNCing into a virtual private server like I am, you'll need to add this because otherwise you will be kicked off the network because it's assuming you're running it. But if it's your own machine and it's not like a cloud-based one, you can just remove this flag and run just this first command, right? So we can copy that command and we can get it up and running. But before we do, we first want to set up proxy chains to run through Tor. So we're going to nano slash etc proxy chains for config, or wherever your proxy chains config file is stored. Proxy chains comes by default on Kali. Now we have a couple of options. We have a dynamic chain, a strict chain, a round robin chain, and a random chain. So if you're using your own proxy list, the best for OpSec is random chain because it will choose a random one and route through it. Strict chain means that if one proxy fails, the entire chain fails and just won't run. And dynamic chain means they will be chained in the order as they appear in the list. At least one proxy must be online to play in the chain, but it will work if a few are dead. So for our setup, we're not using multiple proxies, so random chain isn't very useful. We're just using dynamic chain with Tor. So if you scroll down in your configuration file, you'll notice proxy DNS request. This is very important. Uncomment the proxy DNS line if it's commented for you. I also recommend uncommenting the quiet mode line because Otherwise, it's going to give you output of every request being sent. And like if you're using a tool like SQL map or Nmap that gives a lot of output or sends a lot of requests, then you're going to get a bunch of random proxy chains output in your tool output as well, and it makes it less readable. I'm going to leave quiet mode commented just for the purposes of you guys seeing how it works. Now, for this specific setup, you want your remote DNS subnet to 224. Essentially, it's the bigger the number, the more secure. This will be fine for our purposes. Okay. You can mess with some timeouts if you want, maybe to do things more stealthy if you're running Nmap scans or whatever it is. But you can specify that in the tools too. Now for our proxy lists, you want Tor set up and running. So service Tor start. By default, it's going to run on localhost on port 9050. And we want it set specifically to a SOCKS 5 proxy, not SOCKS 4, SOCKS 5 proxy, because it is a more secure protocol and it's the only thing Tor accepts. Okay. If you're using your own list of proxies, you would just add them on new lines here. Now the proxy chains is set up, the next step is we are going to run our OpenVPN, specifically through ProtonVPN. They're the one I personally recommend. This isn't sponsored or anything. They're just great, and they have a no logs policy, and they're in Switzerland. Okay. Now we're going to put in the auth username. This is not your Proton account username. This is the OpenVPN username. Mine is redacted here using a browser extension for privacy's sake. It's going to show up here. So I'm just going to pause the video until I'm authenticated in. But when I paste it, you just put your username and then copy the password. And again, scroll to this. It is not your Proton account username and email, right? This is my Proton email. I don't use this. So I'm just going to pause this recording, and once I'm authenticated in, then we'll get... Alright, we are now authenticated in this tab. I'm not going to open it because it shows my username, but it's going to say initialization succeeded. Alright, and this is the part where you would go ahead and start Tor. And now you are good to go. Now, how do we actually use this and check this, right? The Tor project comes with their own way of making sure that you are securely on Tor. So if you run proxy chains, and let's say we want to do proxy chains nmap and then just your regular command, or let's say we want to do proxy chains SQL map, and we want to do whatever, right? You can use proxy chains before any command to route all your traffic through proxy chains. Now, the VPN isn't going through proxy chains. It's a separate thing. As I mentioned before, if you didn't watch the explanation, go back, watch it. But as I mentioned before, it essentially protects if Tor's exit node is compromised, right? And we can see my IP is changed here. So we're going to do proxy chains, Firefox, and then we're going to navigate to check.torproject.org. And we can see the output here from proxy chains. This is going to come up with all of your tools. You can see that it's being directed through Tor. Now note this setup is very slow, okay? This is not a daily driver. This is for maximum anonymity. And as you can see, the VPN's IP is here of 1098.02, but our Tor IP is completely different because proxy chains is routing us through the VPN, will connect to Tor, and then Tor will connect to this website, right? So we can see that we are able to safely browse the internet. For more information about this exit relay, see relay search. Okay, so you can go and check different things out. And as you can see, obviously websites are significantly slowed down, and we can see all of that happening with proxy chains on the back end there. What we will go back and do now is we're going to boot into Wireshark so that I can give you guys a bit of a visual on what is happening here. If Wireshark will actually open. You know what? Hang on. Oh, I think I have to call it from the command line. Yeah. Let's boot into Wireshark. And let's open any network interface. and let's go back to proxy chains, and now let's pull up Wireshark. So we can see our VNC packets into my machine. We're going to sort this for HTTP. Okay. And we'll minimize our terminal. And we're just going to reload this tab here. Oh, I've put the wrong filter. I forget how to use Wireshark. It's fine, we're just going to HTTP 2, maybe. Reloads. I have not used Wireshark in ages, so I apologize because I am most definitely doing this wrong. What I'm going to do is just reload this site here. And you can see the TCP connections. I think that's what I was actually meant to be. Yes. Okay, there we go. Sorry, my brain is a bit fried today. We can see the TCP connections are being made from all of these different IP addresses. So it will be sent from the main exit node here, which we can see it appears is this IP, but it actually connects to several others on the way there. So Tor will essentially route you through, I don't want to save that, whoops. Tor will route you through a bunch of, it's acting like proxy chains. That's why we only need one IP in there, because it's routing us through so many different nodes, right? So I will show you now if we, again, nano, etc. proxy chains, and we're just going to turn on silent. Where is it? I think it's quiet, actually. Oh my goodness. Nope. I'm never going to live this down. I can't spell quiet. There we go. Okay. Whew. We're going to save the modified buffer. Alright, and now we can proxy chains Firefox. And we're going to get this output, but further, like, let's say we go to a new website. Let's say we go to google.com, right? We can see that these requests, one, are incredibly slow, like ridiculously slow, okay? And that is because we are going through so many different outputs, right? This is, again, it's not a speed, it's not a daily driver setup, it is for maximum anonymity, okay? But we can route tools through this, right? We can do proxy chains, nmap, scanme.nmap.org. Okay, and we can see starting nmap scan. I think we need the -pn flag, so we'll try that again. Because I believe it could be blocking ping probes. Okay, you can also do, let's say, proxy chains. A good test, sorry, is you can curl the check Tor project site as well. But as you can see, we're able to route our commands through this, and that way you can have very, very private traffic. Now, another thing that I want to note, and I'll cover this more in my next OpSec video, but I just want to give you guys an intro to it, is you want you want to compartmentalize. So you can use Firefox multi-account containers, and let's say I'm doing bug bounty, or I am doing personal stuff, shopping. I'll have a separate profile for all of those, which means that the browser data, like if I log into a site, it is not, it doesn't track me, there's no fingerprinting. So if you're wanting to do things where you're anonymous, you will never mention any details, you will never log into any websites, you will never have cookies, nothing like that. You will have maximum privacy settings on Firefox. So we would be in the OpSec profile, right, before we do anything, and we would be exclusively using this for that. And then if we're doing personal stuff, we switch back to the other profile, making sure that we are not connected to the VPN or Tor or anything like that during personal stuff. Okay, that will be all for this video. I'm gonna make a part 2 on actual practical OpSec, different things like how to configure Firefox and all that. But this will cover the networking elements of it and hiding your IP address and your network traffic. Another bonus is because we're routing through a VPN, your ISP can't see that you're using Tor. They're just going to see ProtonVPN, which makes it even harder to trace back. I hope you guys got some value out of this video. Any questions at all, hit me up in the comments. Really appreciate you guys watching, and peace.